Welcome back, folks, to another episode of Poker. Here in Dallas, the heater is still on. Besides two very short sessions where I lost about like $200, I have not lost a single session of significance. I'm actually here at, if you've been to Dallas, you probably know what that is. It's a place called Cadillac's. Really cool name. I just spent like $110 on smoked meats. It is so good. But you guys don't care about that. Let's get straight into some poker hands today. See you guys in the intro. Let's get straight into some hands. Low jack has limped, and we raise the king jack of spades up to $25. Decent reg on the button makes the call, folds back round, and so does the limper. So we're going three ways to a flop, which is quite nice. It's jack 10-6 rainbow. Low jack now checks. I always fire out 1/3 here, so $25. And up button puts in a raise, but it's a very small one to $60. Low jack overcalls now. And back on us, I don't want a 3-bet here versus a reg, so I just play my entire range to call. Off the turn, it is the 4 of clubs, doesn't change much. Low jack checks, I check it over, and now button fires out once again for $175. Low jack makes a call, and I think we're just done with a hand here. If low jack folded, I might be able to find a call. But players just don't bluff this spot. They're going to just check back and take their equity, so I'm just going to let this one go. River is a 4 of spades, low jack checks, button bets all in for 1,000, and low jack does make the fold, so don't even know what he has, but not a fun spot to be in. Okay guys, so this hand I'm going to go super in-depth, super nerdy and tactical into this hand. If you don't want to listen to me ramble on about how to check raise top pair, just skip to the next hand. It's not a super interesting hand, but I'm going to point out all the mistakes I made in this hand, because this is a concept that I'm learning now, because there's another way to pile more money into the pot. I can have more bluffs. It's awesome. So under the gun is the solid pro. He is raised up to 20. Hijack is called. Queen 10 suited is a little bit too weak to squeeze here. It's also too weak to call, but I want to play Queen 10 suited. So I toss in the call. Big blind gets out the way. We're going three ways to a flop of 10-3-3, 2 clubs, 1 spade. This is going to be really good for the big blind if I was the big blind. But I check it over, and now under the gun fires out a bet of 1/3. Hijack gets out the way, and now it's back on me. And versus this sizing, we do want to raise with a lot of our top pairs. So let me explain which ones we should be raising. Ace 10 is almost always a raise. It's got a high frequency of like 60% because we can cooler all other top pairs from under the gun. So that one's always a raise. Then something interesting happens here. King 10, Queen 10, and Jack 10 is sort of middling, but King 10 and Queen 10 are not raises. And then hands like 10-9 and lower are all going to be at least 40% plus frequency raises. And I'm going to explain the interaction as to why this is. So Ace 10 is obvious. We cooler better 10s all the time. The other 10s, like say 10-9 and lower, need the protection. And we want to be able to fold out his hands that have decent equity against us. So a hand like 10-6 is going to block him from having 6-7 suited, which is going to make him more likely to have a hand like Queen Jack, which has decent equity against a hand like 10-6 suited. So just assume on the big blind I do have all these suited 10x in my range. But Queen 10 here doesn't like to raise because my opponent is under the gun here, and his offsuit combos that he's raising are going to be at the queen level. So he's going to have Ace Queen off and King Queen offsuit here. He's not going to have too many offsuit jacks because Ace Jack off isn't even an open, but he's probably opening that. But hands like King Jack and Queen Jack are probably not going to be opening the offsuit combos under the gun. So that's why I would be raising Jack 10 here, but not Queen 10 and King 10, because I don't want to raise and have him fold a hand like Ace King or King Queen offsuit, because when we turn the queen, he is going to have to barrel turn for value, and he's going to have to barrel blank rivers for value as well, and we get to cooler his queens when we do have Queen 10 here. Also, with this hand, we need less protection because we do also hold an overcard that blocks him from having one as well. So I check raise here all the way up to $90, which is 4.5x, which is my normal size when they bet 1/3. This is also a mistake. On boards where we have linear value, which means that we're raising top pairs for value, we want to use a smaller size of around 50% pot. So how to add that? So let's go back to the pot size. It was $65. He bet 20, so we'd act like we called the 20. So that's 105. So we're raising here to 52.5. So $55 should have been my raise size here. And I would have to adjust my raise sizes for my entire range. You're probably supposed to split your sizings, but I'm never going to split sizings on the flop. Anyways, I make a mistake with queen 10. That shouldn't be a raise, that should just be a call. And I also make a mistake in my sizing by raising it up to $90. Now my opponent does make the call, we're heading to the turn. It is the 8 of hearts. And here's where I make another mistake. I check it over. On this 8, it only really improves 10-8 suited, which I'm not sure he's opening under the gun. I definitely am, but I don't know if he is. And pocket 8s, but we got to keep going for value here, right? We got a strong 10, we can keep barreling, and our weaker 10s can be put into the check back range. But I checked it over because I'm not that great at raising top pairs. And everything I'm telling you is stuff that I reviewed this hand with much better players than me. And this is mostly the feedback I got. So this should be a bet as well. Opponent checks it back once again. We're going to the river. It is the 7 of clubs. Once again, I should probably be betting here for thin value. I'd like a 1/3 pot here now that the front door flush got in. And then we could also double this hand as a 3-bet bluff on the river if my opponent does raise. But anyways, I checked it over, which is probably a mistake, but it's not too big of one because we're out of position and we're only going to bet 33%. It's kind of close to a check, right? If you're out of position, the smaller your bet is, the more it becomes a check, essentially. But my opponent does check it back. We show, and it is good. But quite a few mistakes there. I'm definitely learning more about how to check raise top pair, and it's a lot of fun. Can't wait to do it a bit more. All right, let's get back into some poker. We pick up ace-king offsuit, raise things up to $15. Folds around to the big blind, who's a solid reg, and now he puts in the 3-bet up to $75. Now, this is a man that knows his big blind ranges. That is a polarized sizing, meaning he's only going to be using his very strong hands of like ace-king and queens plus, and then some really junky like 10-6 suited and maybe some ace-5s in there. So versus this sizing, we mostly want to call with ace-king and only put in the 4-bet when we're very strong with hands like aces, kings, and ace-king suited, and then some bluffs like wheel aces. But very occasionally, ace-king offsuit does make it in there. So I'm going to fire out the 4-bet up to 180, about 2.5x. And then we get the bad news. My opponent puts in yet another raise up to 375. Really nice 5-bet sizing here. It's just over 2x. And it also leaves him space to be able to fold if I do shove. This should probably just be a fold. Ace-king offsuit here. I wasn't even supposed to 4-bet it. But it seems rough. We do block aces and kings. So I'm going to make a little bit of a loose call. I know it's ace-king, but I think this is a loose call. So I just toss in the call. We go to an okay flop of king, queen, 3, 2 clubs. My opponent now fires out a very small bet of 200. Love his sizing so far. It's really nice. And with ace-king, we're just going to have to call one street and play turns. I toss in the call, and we get a very interesting turn. It is the ace of clubs. So aces and kings, there's only one combo of each now, and queens, I don't think he 5-bets. So we're probably got the best hand, or we're probably getting coolered. My opponent now checks it over, and he tanked for a while, so I thought about what I was going to do while he was tanking. And at 1 SPR, we probably want to bet about 40% to get it in by the river, like 40%, 40%. But if you look at this, we don't need protection from flushes, right? What flush draws can my opponent have? None. Like ace-queen with the queen of clubs? Yeah, that's about it. We don't really need protection from straights as, you know, we just don't need protection here. And if I bet, I'm only getting coolered. I'm not getting called by worse besides ace-queen. In the moment, I just thought that he had ace-queen quite often here. And I fired out a bet of $400. I don't like this at all. I actually hate this. And my opponent makes a pretty easy fold. Yeah, that's a pretty big mistake there. We're only going to get called by better and sometimes cooler ace-queen when he has that. But I don't like that bet at all. But we do pick up a pretty interesting hand there. All right, moving things along. This lady has sat down to my right, bought him for 500 and loves big bets. Only uses pot-sized bets and large raises pre-flop, up to 25 this time, but we got pocket queens. I 3-bet her up to $80. I could probably go quite a bit larger if she doesn't like to fold. And we do get a cold caller from the button, as well as the lady to our right. So we're on 3 ways to a flop, which is really nice. 5-4-4 rainbow. She checks it over. Gonna start with a small bet here of 80. Button makes a call, and she also makes a call. So pretty good situation here, heading to the turn. Turn is the ace of hearts. And she immediately shoves all in. Oh, disaster. I fold, and Button also folds. He had pocket jacks. That one hurts. That one hurts. Alright, we got the king jack suited here. We raise things up to $15. We face a pretty decent 3-bet size of 45 from the hijack. Seeing as we're both about 1500 effective, just going to toss in the call here, and let's play some post-flop. Flop comes down 9-7-4 rainbow. I check it over. My opponent does check it back, so we're going to play some turns. Turn is not really too much of a help. It's the queen of diamonds. We do have a gut shot, but it's just too weak to be betting all our gut shots here. So I'm going to check it over. My opponent once again checks behind. River is the 8 of diamonds, so does complete quite a few draws here. And I think it's pretty clear my opponent has some sort of showdown value, whether that be ace high or maybe some kind of 7x, something like that. And he's just going to call us off if we bet any normal size. So let's put him in a rough spot by piling a ton of money into the middle. I think $250 sounds about right. That's what I do. 2.5x over the size of the pot. Really put his medium strength hands into a world of hurt here. Opponent's thinking it over. Not loving it. And we do get this one through. Very nice to be able to pick that one off. That pot did not belong to us. Alright, we are trying to get revenge on the lady to our right with the pocket queens. I do not chop in time rate games or low rate games. So she limps for $5. I'd like to play big pots in position. Jack 8 suited seems alright. So I bump it up to 20 and she makes the call. Go to a really nice flop of queen 10, 9, 2 clubs. Flop the straight as well as there's quite a few draws available. She checks it over and I assume that she would lead a lot of her strongest hands. So we're going to bet. And on this board, you want to bet quite large. So I fire up for 30 and she makes the call. We're heading to the turn. It is the Queen of Hearts, a really nice card. She's never going to have pocket 10s or pocket 9s here. Sometimes queen 10, sometimes queen 9, but I assume those hands lead, so we most likely have the best hand here. She checks it over. I look over to stack. She got around 800, and to be honest, I don't know what amount you're supposed to bet. It's, I think, 160% here, but I don't know for 8 SPR. Anyways, I want to get it all in, so I fire out for 175. She doesn't think for too long, and then tosses in the call. Looking for a nice clean river to shove on. It is the 7 of clubs. Not great. The front door flush does get in. But now she checks it over, and I'm pretty sure we've got the best hand. I assume she would lead if she had a flush, so I'm feeling pretty good about my hand here. So she got 625 behind, but 1.5x pot. That's my wager. All in. She thinks it over. Unfortunately, with the club completing, I just don't think she's going to find a hero call here. And she does manage to find the fold, but pretty nice blind versus blind pot there. Okay, we got an under the gun raise up to $20. Small blind has flattened, and we got pocket kings in the big blind. Definitely worthy of a squeeze. I raise things up to 110, and both players make the call. So pretty good development here. We go 3 ways to a flop of queen, queen, 2 hearts. Small blind checks it over. You're going to want to bet about quarter pot here. This is a really good board for the pre-flop aggressor. So I fire up for 75. Under the gun counts his stack, and then shoves it all in for $700. Beautiful. Music to my ears. Small blind folds. This is never a queen. This is just a flush draw every time. We snap it off. Looking for no hearts. The turn is the 6 of spades. River is a heart, but it's a king of hearts. So we make top boat. That is beautiful. Obviously winning this one, and we're going to chip up pretty nicely here. Okay, button is raised up to $20. We look down at king, jack, and diamonds in the big blind. Definitely too strong to call, so we toss in the raise up to $80. My opponent does come along for the ride. Head to a flop of 4-4 deuce 2 diamonds. Pretty good board, but it's one that's going to be a little bit better for him. So I'm going to check quite a few hands here, especially being out of position. So I check it over, and now my opponent fires out a $75 bet. Slightly less than half pot. We're definitely going to want to find some raises here. A lot of our over pairs are going to make it in there. We can balance that out with some flush draws as well. So 225 to go. My opponent does stick around for the ride. Turn is the beautiful 9 of diamonds. We make our flush, and you know, if he's got a better flush or a full house, he's gonna stack us. I'll look over the stack. We're looking about 3 SPR, so 80% here. 80% is just over 450-ish, I think. So I fire a bet of 450, around 75%. Now, my opponent doesn't think for too long and tosses in the call again. So that quick calls make me feel pretty good about my hand. We're heading to the river. It is the Ace of Clubs. It's not my favorite card just because Ace 4 suited does get there. And that's a pretty likely hand for him to have. So I'm not loving it. We are losing to quite a bit here, but love me some thin value. I am all in. $12.95 to go. Opponent's thinking it over. And after about the 2-minute mark, I started to feel good about my hand. You know, there's definitely still some value in there, like some better flushes that could beat us that would, you know, take a little while to call. But after 2 minutes, I'm starting to feel really good about it. And my opponent's still thinking it over. And eventually does toss in the call. I say flush. He doesn't love it. And we are going to pick up a 4K pot here. Ooh, that one feels nice. All right, we pick up pocket kings again. Under the gun is raised up to 20. Low jack is called. And we're going to put in the squeeze once again up to 110. Now, looking over at under the gun, he's making a few little weird faces like he doesn't love it. But they're quite subtle. I don't think he notices. Or is trying to do them. Well, then he puts in the 4-bet up to 345. Low jack folds, and now it's back on me, and I'm not loving this already. This is a massive 4-bet. It's over 3x in position. And it's against big blind when he came from early position. So, like, I'm not loving this. But does he go this big with aces? I don't know. I don't know. Some people are just a little bit worried about getting drawn out on, so they just want to reduce the SPR as much as possible, but this is really going to shrink my range a ton. I'm just going to be folding like jacks here and like queens, kings, ace, king suited, and then maybe some ace, king offsuit, but I probably just fold ace, king offsuit as well. So I'm going to have a very condensed range here of just kings, aces, and ace, king suited. So I toss in the call, not loving it, and we go to a flop of queen 10-5 with 2 diamonds. Hate having a diamond here. I check it over. Fires out another pretty sizable bet of 260. This is more than 1/3 in a 4-bet pot, where the SPR is like basically 1.5-ish. But yeah, another big bet. I hate it again because I've got a hand that kind of sucks, but has to call. I'm just getting milked here for like the maximum with these sizings. But I'm going to toss in the call, play some turns. The turn is the 9 of hearts. We do pick up a gutter, but I check it over. Opponent doesn't think for too long and jams all in for $8.95. This is gross. We just block ace-king so heavily with this hand. And ace-king of diamonds is definitely his main bluff here. And we're going to have aces here. We're probably going to have queens here. And we're just going to fold all of our ace-kings. I think ace-king of diamonds, we just reship it on him on the flop. And so I just think all my kings, especially kings with a diamond, are just going to let it go here. This sucks. But I think he pretty much won the maximum. You know, he got the maximum on the pre-flop and on the flop versus our hand. This one was not fun. I did not want to fold this. I did not. But I just don't see him flipping over anything that we beat. Like, is he ever just going to table ace-king of spades? No. Maybe ace-5 of diamonds? But I don't know. I don't know. I'm just going to let this one go. If he's bluffing us, good for him. That's... Yeah, I fold. I fold. My opponent doesn't show, so no closure, but I think it's the right fold there. Wrapping up yet another win here at the Dallas Las Colinas. I just can't stop winning. Besides 2 very small losses, everything else has just been positive, positive, positive. My hourly rate is over $500 across about 40 hours here. It's just mental. For these 2 sessions, the first one, I won $106. The second one, I won $2,273. Beautiful. It's a total win of $23.79. It's going to bring the bankroll from $53,641 up to $56,335. Feels really nice. Let me know what you think of my in-depth analysis on the check raising top pair. If you guys really like it, I will try and implement a more in-depth breakdown of a hand that I'm sort of working on and learning some new concepts, and we can all learn together. But thank you so much for watching. Do the things down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.